And with us here now is Joel Klatt. Joel, welcome back. Thank you, as always, for making time out of your day. And again, I love the plant. Questions for you. Normal Big Ten championship game is for the Big Ten. Here we've got the championship. We've got seeding. We've got the Heisman. We've got the undefeated seasons. We've got how big of a game is this in Indiana football history. How am I supposed to wrap my head around all of these priorities? How are you looking at the storylines of this game?
Oh man, I can't wait. I have never called a 1 versus 2 game, so wow. I'm very excited about this opportunity. And you're right, it's not just a Big Ten championship game, although that alone would be big. Remember, none of these players for Ohio State have actually won a Big Ten championship. Yeah. As successful as they've been, they didn't win it a year ago. They haven't won it since 2020 in the COVID year. So it's big for them. And then Indiana, this is an obvious one. This is the biggest game in the history of their program. Period. Point blank. And, they've got a chance to not only win the conference title, not only lock up the #1 seed in the college football playoff, but also possibly win a Heisman Trophy. And so for that program, this game and the enormity of it cannot be overstated. I can't wait for the environment. Plus, it's 50 miles from Bloomington, a little bit more than that, maybe 64 miles from Bloomington. So it's going to be an incredible environment. I think there's going to be a ton of energy. And listen, like I said, I'm fired up about it. And by the way, these two teams, I should say, definitely the best, most complete teams in college football. Won't shock me, guys, if this is the first of 2 meetings.
Ooh,
wow.
Like that.
Well, last week, obviously, Ohio State beat Michigan. I want to know, could that game, do you expect it to have any type of emotional effect on Ohio State in this game, whether it's positive, we just beat Michigan for the first time in 4 or 5 years, or negative in that, I mean, this, some fans in Columbus think that's bigger than like the national championship. So could there be a letdown on the Buckeyes' part?
That's always a possibility. They also haven't had as much rest down the stretch as Indiana has had. Indiana had a bye week right before they played Purdue. So Indiana is a more rested team, and I think, and all due respect to Ohio State, probably a more focused team. Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator of Ohio State, he just got the South Florida job, so there's a little distraction there. They just come off beating Michigan after losing those 4. So there's no doubt there's going to be a little bit of a downer. Now, here's the difference, though, is that every single week, since week 1 when I covered them against Texas, guys, the #1 way that Ryan Day describes this group of kids is businesslike. And every time I've seen them, they've been businesslike. They've had the same approach. It's felt the same on the field before the game against Texas, Illinois, Rutgers, and Michigan. So it didn't matter the enormity of the situation. There was this almost professionalism that was exuded by this team, namely their quarterback, Julian Sayin. And so I would expect them to be ready to go, but there's no doubt that they're the lesser of the rested version in this game, and they could be a little bit distracted with what's going on with their coaching staff.
Well, you mentioned the assistant coach from Ohio State moving on. Let's go to moving on coaches and talk Lane Kiffin. So what do you think about this whole situation with him leaving Ole Miss to go to LSU?
I mean, there's so many broken parts to this thing, and that doesn't exempt him from a selfish decision because it was. Now, I'm not begrudging him that opportunity. If he thinks that's better for him and his future and his family, then more power to him. And this is, the pickle that he finds himself in with our broken calendar in college football. Can you imagine, just for a moment, in the NFL, if we were competing not only at the end of the regular season, but into the postseason in the NFL playoffs, while trying to build rosters and sign free agents and draft people and hiring coaches and everything. So obviously the calendar in college football is broken, but that's not an excuse for Lane. The problem in this situation is that Ole Miss is trying to look out for their future. So they say, hey, Lane, no, you can't coach the playoff because no one's going to be looking over our team and our program during roster building time in the calendar with the early signing date and the transfer portal. Lane is looking after his future, and he's saying, well, listen, I think LSU is a better opportunity for me because they're going to invest more into the roster, and I think I can recruit high school players a little bit better at LSU. Both of those, by the way, are not crazy positions, and I actually probably agree with both of those. Here's the issue. Nobody is looking after the players who are narrowly focused about this playoff. All they want to do is a chance to win these games in front of them and go and compete for and win a national championship. And this is making it harder on them. That's why it's a selfish decision. You wait all year, you build yourself all year. Your coach asks you to commit to something larger than yourself, and then he bails. So do I love it? No. But do I understand it? Obviously. Obviously, I know what's going on.
So, Joel, but if Lane asked you for advice, would you have told him to, like, forget
Stay.
the law? So that's what I wanted to get. Like, it feels to me, everyone talks about how LSU is such a better job, and it has more resources.
I don't know if it is.
Right, so that's what I wanted to get into. So why would you have told him to stay other than do right by the players? Set that aside just for him personally.
Sure. Well, in the modern college football, I think it's very different than what we know of from the past, where you have to be at a small number of schools in order to compete for a championship. What we're actually seeing now is that you can build yourself into a top-end contender and win at the top end of college football with things like Kurt Cignetti at Indiana, Joey McGuire at Texas Tech, and Lane at Ole Miss. I think he's proving this out. And what it takes is investment, which Ole Miss has had. They've invested into the transfer portal heavily. He's done a marvelous job of that. And then it also takes alignment of a coach, an athletic director, and the university administration. And they have that at Ole Miss. They've got that alignment. LSU does not, guys. LSU is I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but it's a bit of a dumpster fire, right? I mean, the governor is involved, and now the interim AD gets the long-term AD job, but I heard there was jockeying for position there, and there's a lot of political things. The governor says, we're never going to give a contract like Brian Kelly had. Then Lane Kiffin gets a contract for $91 million with no offset and no mitigation. So it's like, well, who's really in charge and who can pull the strings? So that would be my argument, is that if he wants to win a national championship, he has that opportunity at Ole Miss right now in front of him. And is it easier at LSU? Maybe, but only if there's alignment. You can't just throw money at problems and feel like those problems are going to go away. Those are structural, and they need to fix those before they're going to have success on the field.
All right, Joel, I really hope we agree on this because
That's pressure.
I'm oddly passionate.
I just heard you guys arguing about the Patriots' run game, which is non-existent. They won't do anything in the playoffs.
Thank you, Joel.
Wow.
Don't ask Kevin Wildes. Don't ask Kevin Wildes. Joel, sidebar question. In all your years on the football team, was there ever something you guys weren't good at because you decided you just didn't want to be? Like, it's like we could be good at it, but we just don't want to be.
Are we having problems moving the ball up and down the field?
Look at him. He's so mad.
We're not having
He's
any
just so
issues.
mad. All right, let's stay on topic, though. Notre Dame, Miami. If there's one spot for them, it has to go to Miami. And I know that
they're directly compared.
because they played. Do you agree
Right.
with me that it's as simple as that?
Yes. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Every tiebreaker in any sport
It's head-to-head.
ever
It's the first.
known to man on the face of the planet, what is the first criteria in the tiebreaker?
Head-to-head.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are we doing? You know, and yes, at some point they're going to be compared directly. Here's why Notre Dame is in a pickle. And actually, I would bet on Notre Dame missing the playoffs, even though they're not going to play another game and Miami is not going to play another game. The canary in the coal mine right now is BYU. They're protecting Notre Dame from a direct comparison with Miami, but BYU is going to move because
either
they
up or
play
down.
another game.
Yep.
They're going to either pass Notre Dame and knock them out if they beat Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game, or they will lose and probably fall behind Miami, thus putting Miami and Notre Dame right next to each other. And then the committee will have no other option. I also believe that there's a little bit, not that this is sinister, but I think that there's a little bit of protection to the ACC because there's a situation out there where if Duke were to win the ACC would just be on the outside of the playoff. And their only hope would be an at-large spot for Miami. So I think that the committee is giving themselves a buffer by moving Notre Dame, down to 10, and Alabama passing them for no reason after beating a bad 5-7 Auburn team. But all of a sudden they switch spots. Why? So they can get one spot closer to Miami, and then BYU will play this out, and then the committee will be like, well, it was out of our hands. All of a sudden they're next to each other. Look at that. And then they can put Miami in. So I think that either BYU or Miami is going to be in the playoff, and I do think Notre Dame is going to miss out.
All right, Joel, before we let you go, we were listening to Ben Roethlisberger's podcast, and he was talking
subscribe
about...
too, Joel? It's a great one.
Well,
To Ben's?
Yeah.
Only if he would tell me that they could run Jerome Bettis, but why do it?
We don't have any...
Go ahead.
So anyways, Big Ben is talking about maybe like a fresh start in Pittsburgh, and he was just kicking around Mike Tomlin to Penn State, which seemed ridiculous. Yeah, and at the same time, I was like, something. What were your thoughts on that?
Mike
What's
Tomlin
going on?
Want to get into a business where he's got to sign recruits on a Wednesday, potentially playing a game on Saturday like Ryan Day is this week, and then he's got a transfer portal. I don't see that happening, even though I think that would be great. I think that would be great. Here's where I think Penn State is at. Let me give you kind of, I'll update you on what I think is going on at Penn State. Penn State tried to get Kalani Sitake, and the crumble cookie guy that's a BYU guy was like, no, I'm selling way too many cookies to let Kalani Sitake walk out the door. So crumble cookies for everybody in Provo, baby. That's what we're doing. So Kalani Sitake is going to stay there. I believe that they're targeting Brian Daboll or Jeff Brom at Louisville. And then the fact that they have not hired a coach, and we're at early signing day today, we are signing recruits, and Penn State is getting crushed in recruiting right now because they're losing all of their commitments because they don't have a coach. Why would Penn State not have hired a coach? I think, guys, and this is not, I don't know this for sure, this is speculation, but I think, I've been around this for a long time, I think that they're targeting a guy that's coaching Saturday. And that's the only explanation for not having hired somebody right now. And so there are 3 names of guys that are not either signing long-term extensions or haven't gotten new jobs or would not leave. And here are the 3 names: Tony Elliott, Virginia; Manny Diaz, Duke; Kalen DeBoer, Alabama.
What?
Kalen DeBoer, Alabama.
Then what happens to Bama?
Lane Kiffin goes there because that's the job he wants.
It's like, you know what?
Lane Kiffin activates the buyout and goes there. That's the job he wanted from the beginning.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
LSU was like, what do you mean? You were so committed to us.
All right, Dusty's telling us to go. Gee, that's a bomb and a half. That was excellent. All right, Big Ten championship game. Indiana, Ohio State.
Yeah, I know. It's that you get 30 minutes with Cowherd. You get 9.5 with us. I don't know what the hell's going on.
There's 3 of you. We didn't even get into the rushing game of the Patriots. The Broncos are
the best team in the NFL.
He's a Broncos guy. Don't you know that? They're about to be the 1 seed. He's in Denver.
And guess what? Both of those teams, they go up against Josh Allen. Who are you going to take? Josh Allen in the playoffs.
Wilds hates this so much.
Joel, they played head-to-head. We played head-to-head already.
In the regular season.
There you go. Exactly. In the regular season.
Thank you, Joel. There's some Super Bowl trophies I don't know about.
Thank you, Joel.
Big Ten championship game. Check it out. Joel Klatt, 6:30 on Saturday. Thank you, Joel. More First Things First on the break.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.